Hi, good day everyone. Welcome to our video recorded lessons on Fundamentals of Accountancy, Business and Management 1. Today, we are going to discuss Lesson 1, which is on Introduction to Accounting. To start with, let me present to you our learning competencies. Number 1, define accounting. Number 2, describe the nature of accounting. And number 3, narrate the history or origin of accounting. To start with, let's have a starter problem. Juan P. Rodriguez recently graduated from college with a bachelor's degree in nursing. However, due to low demand and lesser opportunities to be hired as a nurse, he decided to put up a business which he financed from his personal funds amounting to 300,000 pesos and borrowed 200,000 pesos from his parents as an additional capital. After he's accumulated the money to run his business, he immediately started to operate his computer shop. Prior to commencing his business, he initially purchased 10 sets of computers for 20,000 peso each. He also paid rent for a space to be used for a business for 10,000 pesos. All businesses have to be registered under the law in order for it to operate legally. The business was assessed by the City Treasurer's Office of Dumaguete for 1,500 pesos as payment for permits and licenses. It was in June 1 of 2020 when he finally started to operate his business and hired an internal shop attendant as well. During the first month of operations, he was able to generate a revenue of 32,000 pesos and he paid expenses related to operations where 2,500 was paid for electricity, 200 for water, and 2,800 for the internet connection. He also paid salary for his internet shop attendant for 8,000 pesos. Juan wanted to determine whether he has gained or not from his first month of business operations. So what he did, he added all investments and revenues and deducted all purchases and expenses related to his business. To illustratively explain the different transactions, the following financial statement was prepared by Juan. So here is the financial statement which Juan prepared. So what he did, he added all the investments and the revenues, and he also added all the purchases and expenses. So here we can see that there is a total of 532,000 pesos of investment and revenues. There is also a total of 225,000 pesos of purchases and expenses. Now, after deducting all purchases and payments from investments and revenues, the resulting amount is 307,000 pesos, of which 225,000 pesos was deducted from 532,000 pesos. Juan further believes that in his first month of operations, the amount 307,000 pesos is his total income for the month of June of 2020. Now, question. Was Juan doing the right thing in computing for his June income? So a lot of ideas or a lot of questions are in our mind right now if Juan was really doing the right thing. Wherein, he deducted all his expenses and purchases from his investments and his revenues from operations. So as we go along our chapters, as we go along our lessons in FABM 1, we would be able to know if Juan was really doing the right thing. So here, we present our 5 basic financial statements. So in accounting, it is very important for us to have our financial statements because these are the most important documents in the businesses since it presents the financial standing and performance of its operations. So we have 5 basic financial statements. Number 1, statement of financial position, or previously known as balance sheet. Number 2, statement of financial performance, or again, previously known as income statement. Number 3, we have statement of cash flows. Number 4, statement of changes in equity. And number 5, notes, comprising of summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. Now, in the conduct of business, not just the owners and managers make use of financial statements. Others who have interest on the company's financial standing and performance also use financial statements. Who are these people? These are the employees who are actually concerned or who has interest on the financial statements of a company. We have creditors. Those people or entities who lend money to the different businesses. Suppliers, customers, investors, and governmental agencies are some of the people or entities who have interest on the company's financial statements. These people or these entities are called stakeholders, meaning to say they have interest over a certain company. So stakeholders are classified either internal and external. So later on or in lesson 2, we will be discussing who are the internal stakeholders and who are the external stakeholders. But for now, let's settle for our first competency, which is to define accounting. So we have here 3 definitions of accounting. According to ASC or the Accounting Standards Council, accounting is a service entity. Its function is to provide quantitative information, primarily financial in nature, about economic entities that is intended to be useful in making economic decisions. Another definition came from Committee on Accounting Terminology of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountant, which defines accounting as the art of recording, classifying, and summarizing in a significant manner in terms of money transactions and events which are in part at least of a financial character and interpreting the results thereof. And we have also another definition of accounting from American Accounting Association in a statement of basic accounting theory, which defines accounting as the process of identifying, measuring, and communicating economic information to permit informed judgment and decision by users of the information. So we have here 3 definitions coming from 3 different organizations. However, these 3 definitions have one in common, and that is what we are going to discuss in the next few minutes. So here, the nature of accounting. The primary objective of accounting is to provide quantitative financial information about the business that is useful to users of financial statements, particularly owners and creditors in making economic decisions. Number 1 embedded in accounting definition is identifying. Now in accounting, we only have to identify which events are accountable and which are not. Meaning to say, there are events which are not relevant or which are not accountable. So let's take for instance, an example. The business hired a staff on January 1. The company paid the said staff on January 30. Now, based on the problem, we have 2 events. Number 1 event is on January 1, wherein he was hired by the company. On January 30, that is the second event, which was he was being paid by the company for the service rendered for the business staff. So in these 2 events, only one is relevant as regards to financial transactions. Meaning to say, the first event is not financial in nature because it entails qualitative information. It only denotes or it only discusses on how the staff or the office staff has been hired. So it actually talks about the process. While for the event 2 or the second event, it actually entails financial transaction or financial event. Meaning to say, in January 30, he was paid for his salary for the service he has rendered for the company. Now, in this situation, again, only the second event is considered as accountable since it is the only account which has an effect on the company's assets and liabilities, which we will have to discuss as we go along the topic. Now, another distinct characteristic, or another, not characteristic, but a term used in the definition of accounting is measuring. Now, in the Philippines, we use the currency of peso or the Philippine peso. Now, it is very hard for us to quantify our products without the currency of Philippine peso. Say, for instance, if you want to buy a coffee for 100 pesos, how would we be able to identify or quantify rather a 1 cup of coffee if we do not have the Philippine currency? Unlike in the ancient times, if you've been shared by your grandfathers and grandmothers of their stories a long time ago, that they didn't still have money or they didn't have the Philippine currency. So what they do is they do barter. So If you have heard again from your grandmothers and grandfathers that they will have to barter a certain quantity of gold perhaps in exchange of a land, or if you want to barter this car to a certain house. On that situation, we could not or we could hardly measure. Why? Because we do not use currency here. But in accounting, it is very important to consider measuring because we are actually quantifying here our events or transactions. That's why number two term measuring is very important in the definition of accounting. Now let's go to the third term, the communication or communicating. It is the process of preparing and distributing accounting reports to potential users of accounting information. Now, the first two activities, identifying and measuring in the accounting cycle, would be useless without communication, such as reports to its intended users. Why? Why is it that the first two activities, identifying and measuring, would not be valuable if without communicating? Now, one must consider that part of communication process are recording, classifying, and summarizing. And it is for this reason that accounting is called the language of business. It is very important for us to communicate to our intended users, to our stakeholders, the financial standing and financial performance of the company. Just like in just like in communication in English, 'di ba? It's very important that the sender of the information has to send efficiently or effectively the message intended to the recipient. And the recipient has to make a feedback or has to make a communication again so that the intended user, not intended user, but the recipient of the message has to confirm with the communicator or the one who sends the communication that he was able to perceive the communication effectively. That's why in accounting we have to provide financial statements because we want to know, or we not want to know, but the people would want to know, or we would want to inform them that these are our financial standings. These are our financial performances in the previous years or in the previous months. That's why, again, it is for this reason that accounting is called the language of business. Now, after having discussed the three basic activities in the accounting cycle, we can say that truly accounting is an art because it follows an artistic design approach wherein it requires particular skill and expertise. Also, accounting involves a process because it follows a step-to-step analysis and understanding business transactions. So, in second quarter or after the midterms period, we will discuss on the accounting cycle from identifying the transactions to journalizing to posting and to post-closing trial balance. So later on, we'd be able to know and we would have to discuss on the different steps of the accounting cycle. That's why it is called systematic because it involves a step-to-step analysis. Okay, so let's have here accountant as a profession. Now, Republic Act 9298, or commonly known as the Philippine Accountancy Act of 2004, is the law which regulates the practice of the accounting profession in the Philippines. Its status is equivalent to that of law and medicine. Why is it that it is equivalent to law and medicine? Because as an accountant, you must finish first a degree in Bachelor of Science in Accountancy and pass the very difficult board examination administered by the Philippine Regulation Commission, supervised by the Board of Accountancy. The BOA is the body authorized by law to promulgate rules and regulations affecting the practice of the said profession. Once you pass the Certified Public Accountant Licensure Examination or CPALE, usually administered twice a year, the PRC, upon favorable recommendation of the Board of Accountancy, shall issue the Certificate of Registration to practice public accountancy valid for 3 years and renewable every 3 years thereafter. So that's why how do you call this? It is compared to that of medicine and law because passing the board examination for accountant is very difficult. A lot of a lot of takers usually fail. Usually the national passing rate is 20, 30, or 40%. I have not heard a national passing rate of 60, 70% because of a very, very difficult examination. So of course, uh, along with uh, along with dedication and along with perseverance in passing the licensure examination for certified public accountants, you are given or issued a certificate of registration to practice public accountancy, which again is good for 3 years and renewable every after 3 years. Now, what are the functions of accounting? Number one, collect and store data on business events to fulfill the stewardship function of the management. That is very important, collection and storage of data. Number two, supply information to interested users to facilitate the decision-making process of the management. Financial statements are given because we would want to supply information to our intended users. If the shareholder of a company or if the owner or the investor wanted to ask for the statement of financial performance because they wanted to know if the company has profited or has made profit in the previous year, then you have to provide the corresponding financial statement because number one function of accounting is to supply information. And lastly, provide controls to ensure operations efficiency. So by providing control, we have to ensure that our controls in the company are in place. Say, for example, cashier, she is in charge of the collection of money from customers. So it is not possible, or we have to make controls in our company wherein our cash would be safeguarded. And to say, it does not follow, it is not right that the cashier accepts the cash. He also has the custody of keeping the cash with her all throughout the month, and he can or he or she can withdraw the money any time of the day. So usually when she collects the money, he counts, he do cash counts at the end of the day and deposits in the bank. So it should not happen that there are no controls in our company because if there are none, then our business might fail at the end of the day. Now, it is for this reason that accounting is considered to be the language of business. Accounting communicates economic decisions to interested users. The reports speak of how the company was managed effectively by the management. Of course, by looking at the reports, the financial statements would know if the company is performing well or not. These reports in turn will be used by the interested users to make informed decisions concerning the company. So our financial statements, after reading our financial statements, our intended users, usually our managers, our investors, our shareholders, would have to make decisions whether to continue or to stop the business. If it is that the company is experiencing severe losses in the past 5 years, then the management has to do ways or has to make a decision as to what steps to consider after the financial statements are being read or presented to the different intended users. So let's now move on to the core values of accountants. Now, values are set of beliefs or principles shared by the members of a society what one thinks as good and desirable. In the practice of accounting, we have to consider these core values. Number one, competence. How do we consider, how do we gauge if we are competent? Competence refers to one's ability to perform high quality work in capable, efficient, and appropriate manner. Now, accountants must always strive to be at par and maintain the highest standards. According to Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountants, competence is that a professional accountant should perform professional services with due care, competence, and diligence, and has a continuing duty to maintain professional knowledge and skill at a level required to ensure that a client or employer receives the advantage of competent professional service based upon on up-to-date developments in practice, legislation, and techniques. So competence. Of course, number one requirement or requisite would be you have to pass the board examination. You would not be called a certified public accountant, or you would not have the license to practice if you did not pass the board examination for accountancy. Okay, so we also have to submit ourselves to training seminars to keep updated with the common law, not common laws, but with the existing laws and regulations. Especially now that in BIR we have already adopted the chain law in 2018, and there will be a second package. I'm not so sure of the term. A second package come 2022, wherein the tax table in 2018 would be different from the tax table come to year 2022. So it would be a different scheme of paying taxes. That's why we have to be updated with this circulars, memoranda, or whatever legislation would that be. Okay, number two value, continuing education and lifelong learning. So we have to submit to continuous seminars, trainings to keep ourselves updated. We would not be able to practice our profession if we are not updated. So those CPAs or those accountants which are already of old age must submit to trainings, continuous trainings, education. Perhaps you have to take masteral or doctoral, so to keep updated with the present trends and the practice of the profession. Number three, objectivity. We have to be bias free, or we have to be free from misrepresentations. So we should be fair, and we should not allow prejudice or conflict of interest. Okay, conflict of interest meaning to say, example, if you are in one company and then you are both brothers and sisters. You are the accountant. You are the accountant, and your sister is the manager. So it is very hard to maintain independence among your jobs as an accountant and as a manager. Why? Because of conflict of interest. You might be conniving in a company with its operations because you are siblings, right? So you have to prevent, or you have to distance yourself of conflict of interest or influence from others. Okay, let's go to integrity. Integrity, according to PICPA, is conducting oneself with honesty and professional ethics. So always and always and always, we have to be honest in all our dealings as an accountant. Why? Because we are dealing with real life situations or businesses, no? Uh, one very good example is that once you are an accountant of a company, uh, you have to avoid fraud in your company. If you want to be a trusted accountant, if you want to be an accountant whose competence and integrity is is of excellence, then you have to prohibit yourself in indulging in activities where it has to hamper your competence and your integrity as an accountant. So again, CPA should ensure that the report you are providing to the public are genuine and accurate. So you just do not you do not misrepresent your financial statements just so to impress the public, or just so that you have to obtain loans rather. You have to obtain loans, so you have to misrepresent your financial statements. So whatever the transactions are, you have to accurately reflect it on your financial statements. Okay, let's go to our fundamental principles of accounting. Number one, according to PICPA, we have integrity. A professional accountant should always be honest in all his dealings. That is number one principle of accounting. Number two, objectivity. You have to be fair. You don't have to be subjective. You have to be fair and free from bias to continuously provide quality accounting service to your clients. Number three, professional competence and due care. When you say professional competence, as an accountant, you should perform professional service with due care, competence, and diligence. Okay? You should always be quick and alert. You must be updated in knowledge and skills to maintain your competence. Number four, confidentiality. A professional accountant should maintain confidentiality of all records entrusted to him by his client. You do not divulge or disclose this information because these are highly confidential. If you are the accountant, you are not allowed to divulge information. If you're not permitted by the company to divulge the information to anyone outside the organization or even within the organization without the consent of the higher ups. Okay? So you have to maintain confidentiality. Say for instance, I am the accountant of ABS-CBN and I say, "Hey guys, ABS-CBN is going on bankruptcy. I'm the auditor, I'm the accountant, and I know that the values, that the amounts there are, are dramatically decreasing. So I believe they are going to close at a very soon time. So as an accountant, you have to practice due diligence in your dealings. You have to be confident. You have to be how do you call this? You have to be professional in your dealings by not disclosing information which are not considered to be disclosed anytime. Okay? Next, we have professional behavior. A professional accountant should act in accordance with the Code of Ethics for Accountants. So of course, we have our Code of Ethics. That's why we have to practice in accordance to the framework or to the Code of Ethics. And of course, technical standards. A professional accountant should carry out professional services in accordance to relevant technical and professional standards. A public accountant should conform to the standards set by the BOA. First things first, Board of Accountancy, then Philippine Regulation Commission, then Securities and Exchange Commission, Accounting Standards Council, and other related legislations. So these are our 6 fundamental principles of accounting. So let's now move to accounting versus bookkeeping because a lot of people or students are having a confusion as to the distinction between bookkeeping and accounting. Now, usually accounting and bookkeeping are mistakenly perceived to be the same. There must be a clear differentiation between the two so as not to commit the same mistake. Accounting on a broad sense encompasses a wide array of professional services which includes bookkeeping. Therefore, bookkeeping is just an umbrella of accounting because bookkeeping is only part of accounting which concerns on recording of monetary transactions only. So bookkeepers, as a bookkeeper, you need not to be an accountant or a CPA. Okay? But for you to become an accountant, you must be a licensed CPA. So that is the very essence of accounting versus bookkeeping. Okay, for the history of accounting, I need not to discuss this one because this is history of accounting. I have uploaded the module. In the drive later on. So I will send the link. Just have to go over the history of accounting. How accounting evolved from 4000 BC up to 2005 to present time. So this, of course, is relevant to our setting in the Philippines. How accounting evolved in the world and how Philippines adapted with accounting. Okay, so who is the father of accounting? Luca Bartolome Spacioli was an Italian monk and mathematician who wrote Summa Arithmetica Geometria Proportionalita, or everything about arithmetic, geometry, proportion, and proportionality. So based on this paragraph, our father of accounting is Pater Luca Bartolome Spacioli. Now, this book, or the book which is everything about arithmetic, geometry, proportion, and proportionality, includes a 24-page treatise on bookkeeping, or particularities, the computis et scripturis, or details of calculation and recording. He popularized the system of recording transactions in the books of accounts until fully adopted by accountants around the world. So he was the first one to conceptualize on dual entry accounting. So he was recognized then as the father of modern accounting. So according to Florence C. Tugas in 2016. So that's it for lesson 1. for the introduction to accounting. Now, we have an exercise or we have an activity that you can actually answer. It's a simple activity, true or false. Just click the link, follow the link, or visit the link, and then answer the activity. A 5-item true or false, which can actually give you a lot of information as regards to our lesson for today. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for viewing my video presentation, video recorded lesson for this week. This is my first time to conduct or to do or to record a video presentation because I wanted that the learners would be able to have or to get a better grasp of FABM1 because I know that in this time of pandemic, a lot of learners are having a hard time in understanding our modules, especially in our specialized subject in senior high school, which is FABM1. So I hope you guys were able to learn something from me, and I hope to see you next week for our lesson 2. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and whatever would that be, so that other learners also from other areas will be able to have to be able to stream this video. That's all for today. Thank you and see you next week.